What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this your first podcast for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Leave that five-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. A lot to discuss on today's episode. The regular season has finished. We are headed for the playoffs. We got drama right up to the last minute with the Clippers and Warriors going to OT. The East, of course, was set as early as you would think is humanly possible. But we're going to be diving into the playoff matchups. We're also going to be discussing a little bit on the regular season, some of the biggest storylines heading into the playoffs, and who's been the most disappointing player of the season so far. That's an interesting topic I want to discuss. But before we do that,
Hmm.
Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm very excited for the playoffs. Excited for the plan. I came around to it. I think slowly. I came around to the idea of the Bulls being here. I've accepted our reality. I've accepted our fate. I'm excited to see it. And I'm telling you what, like we were just talking about it before we hopped on air. I know maybe not a lot of people are excited about this plan, but I'm pretty pumped to see like where these teams go. And I think that they're gonna provide some good competition early on. So even though the playoffs are still several days away, I think we're gonna have some good basketball this week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Let's just start out the regular season as a whole. Finished up yesterday. Unfortunately, obviously, there was a few complaints that obviously the Clippers and Warriors game had to compete with the Masters on TV yesterday, and I managed to squeeze in both. I don't know about how other people were dealing with it, but I was able to squeeze in both, and the Clippers ultimately got the win, which means they are going to finish as the fifth seed, and the Warriors fall into the play-in tournament. What do we think about the regular season as a whole this year? What are the major takeaways from the regular season as we go towards the playoffs, do you think?
My honest answer is that I think the NBA has the worst fan base in the country, in the world. Maybe not the world, but in the country. We are such prisoners of the moment. We are so heavily influenced by, any social media trends and everything. And there are just so many points in time during the season where instead of focusing on basketball, we're focusing on narratives. We're focusing on, hey, does the game actually suck? Do we even like watching the game? The fact that like really good like journalists, content creators were making content about like, hey, no, this is actually fun to watch. Like what that was just such it was such a weird season that I felt it was apart from reality where if you really look at the game, I think that it's consistently been a good product. It's not been just a chucking league. Like there's been so many like evolving ways to play that we've seen across the league, different teams playing different ways and different players emerging that are not just out here chucking threes and not playing defense. But I feel like a lot of times throughout the season that if I had to talk about one big thing throughout the regular season, fortunately, it's not about basketball itself because a lot of about what we talked about or kept seeing online was just non-basketball related stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing point. I wasn't sure that's where you were going to go with that, but that's actually very, very true, and it's sad, and I guess I don't know. It's just I guess it just shows the power I guess that the old guard still has across the media and across basketball as a whole. That's where the general narrative of this it starts from. I mean, so many of the old guys say, none of these guys can do it in our day. Oh, the three-point shot is ruining the game of basketball, blah 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 blah. And yet, I'm sure the NBA is also making more money than it's ever made before, and things like that are going this way. So I guess it can't be that bad, can it? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sad when the biggest point takeaways aren't about basketball, but it's important to raise these concerns and criticism because unfortunately it's true, and we need to get back to focusing on the actual game of basketball, heading towards the playoffs. Hopefully, that's what we start to do.
Yeah. What about you? What's your basketball takeaway? Hopefully you have an actual basketball answer.
But an actual basketball answer, man, I guess. Well, the obvious one is the West is still so much better than the Eastern Conference. That's the one.
Yeah.
The real obvious one. Even though we thought the East might have been catching up.
We do this every year. Yeah.
I guess anything can happen. The Detroit Pistons are kind of giving me that vibe of anything can happen in the NBA with the right moves. That anything can turn around in an instant, and that's it gives you hope moving forward for the teams that are down there at the bottom for teams that are maybe struggling around the lower seeds in each conference. It can change on a whim. You just need the right things to go your way, the right guys to come in, and things can really change for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point in terms of, I guess, what was the word I would use? Parity is definitely a word. I would say opportunity, if you're going to boil it down to one word. Because if you look at the team, some teams here at the top, the Houston Rockets, a team that people are begging, hey, consolidate, trade guys, get a star. They're the second seed. The Cavs, hey, split up your guys. They're not working. Go get depth. Go get a wing. Well, they did both and they kept their guys. And look at them. Number one seed, best team in the East. And, I think that it speaks a lot. Of course, the Pistons, hopefully we get to talk about them here today, but then the Clippers, volatility, opportunity, parity. We obviously have the opportunity for teams to be competitive like this because of the CBA world that we're in. Obviously, a lot of complications with that, but I think it's cool. I think getting back to something that has been talked about all season in terms of like non-basketball stuff, but how the game actually is, and us taking a bigger picture look at what the league is like. It's interesting that some people are looking back at the Warriors, looking back at the Cavs, looking back at the Heat, and thinking, maybe that was actually a better version of the NBA, having dynasties and watching dominant teams. But I can't disagree more. I've loved the way that the NBA has been. I've loved that. I mean, I'm much less of a big fan for NFL and baseball, but I feel like every time I tune in for the playoffs as a casual fan of those sports, there's always new faces, there's always new teams, and there's always, there's that team that's probably going to win, but it's not a definite. And I feel like we have that this season. We have a couple probable teams, but there's a lot of dark horses in the way that we didn't have before. And I still feel like that's the place where I like where the league is in. And maybe some casual fans who really only like tuning in for LeBron and tuning in for their Lukas, their Steph Currys, the Golden State Warriors. Like maybe we're breeding a new style of, basketball fandom where this is interesting. We like to see new teams. We like to see teams like the Rockets. Hey, you don't know who Amen Thompson is? Well, go check him out. We wouldn't have had that opportunity before with super teams and the way that went. So I think that as a whole is something to be interested in as more people are getting into the NBA.
Yeah, and I think don't get me wrong. It's always cool when you see the dynasties and the great players because you just have to respect. You can never
Yeah.
negate winning when teams are able to win like that on a consistent basis. It's incredibly impressive. But over these last few years, pretty much every year, yeah, obviously we always try and make it a bigger picture than it is, and we always try to say, oh yeah, there's like 10 teams that could win the NBA championship. Yeah, maybe that's not true, but for the most part, every other year a new candidate, a legitimate candidate, kind of appears pretty much every like year on year over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons that has a legitimate case to push and win a championship, and that's a great thing. That's an important thing for competition. That's going to test these other teams that are willing to pay the money, willing to go into the luxury tax to compete atop the NBA. That's going to push them to see how much they're really worth, how good they really are, and that's only ever going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Can we flip the narrative and let's talk a little bit about things that have disappointed us this season? I want to talk about this. This randomly popped into my head the other day. Who do you think has been the most disappointing player this season? And obviously, we will remove Phoenix Suns and Philadelphia 76ers players from these
Why?
conversations
Why?
because they just
Is
don't
it?
count. They're just the worst. They're terrible and shocking.
I mean, it's low hanging fruit, but I have to say it. The team I was the most excited for was the 76ers and them like resurging and I can't not immediately think of Embiid and be like that is the most disappointed I felt in his health. Um, I guess maybe I could say Paul George and the way he was supposed to, buoy this team without Embiid, even though that was going to be impossible with the way just how hurt he was. Um, then you go first. If we're not allowed to say that because that has to be the first thing in my mind when I really think about like disappointment and really for a franchise who is the most disappointed. Obviously the answer for that obviously is the Mavs in
Yeah.
general who's disappointed. But that's my first thought. Who did you
Yeah,
have?
I mean, obviously, it always goes straight to Philly and Embiid and the way his body's just breaking down. It's just so sad and the pathetic performance we've really seen from Paul George. You'd feel like he was never healthy this whole year. And some maybe that's some that's on him, maybe that's some that's on bad luck. And then like, even Maxey kind of played down to the level as well. We didn't really see him rise above that either, which was obviously super disappointing. The Suns, let's not even get into them. The Mavs, obviously, what were they doing? Trading Luka, and then Kyrie gets hurt, and everything's just a disaster there. Kind of outside one where it's kind of hard to criticize, but I think the criticism is deserved. I look at LaMelo Ball.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm super disappointed in the season from him. I'm super disappointed that he hasn't really taken that leap yet in the NBA. A guy that I was really high on coming out of the draft. I remember I picked him to be Rookie of the year he was drafted. He did do that, but since then he's just completely failed to kick on. And don't get me wrong, it's been a bit of a mess with the Hornets. The Hornets pretty much year on year are always a pretty big disaster. But what he has done has just been underwhelming. He hasn't been the big fish in the little pond. He's kind of played down to the level way too much. And like since joining the Hornets, he's only won 143 of 410 games. That's how many wins that the Hornets have amassed. Zero playoff appearances, zero playing wins. He's only played in 231 games. He's played just 56% of games this year. Look at it, like his stats pretty nice. I mean, 25, 5 and 7, career high in points, but 40, 34 splits, led his team to just 16 wins. And then you compare that to a guy like Cade Cunningham, who came in, who's basically his competition to be like the next great guard in the NBA and in the Eastern Conference. 26, 6 and 9, 47, 36 splits, leads his team to 38 wins. Looks like an elite player, all NBA player. And LaMelo just kind of looking on mostly from the sidelines, and that's really disappointing for me.
I I think it's funny that you mentioned that because that's definitely true. Disappointment is relative to expectations, right? And I think I've always, maybe unfairly so, because of injuries and because of, I mean, truthfully, maturity. I've never really felt like any of that has changed in a significant way for him. And there's a reason we don't talk about the Hornets that much. Like there's not a lot going on there. As an organization, they've still not figured things out. And I think they're still building up. Um, I like what they have in their coaching unit, what they have to say about the games. But we can say this: he played double the games that he did last year. Played 47 games, but 47 games. That's still he's still a long ways to go to being like a yearly all-star candidate type of player. We kind of ran the list of guards pre all-star break, talking about, hey, is he like an outside shot? And I think it's pretty clear like he's not even a top five in the East. And I guess that's why I wouldn't even think about this point for him in terms of expectation. Um, Gave me a second to think about it. And I think if we're talking about expectation, and especially when it comes to these young guys, I think my answer would have to be Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, fair.
The Raptors have gone like so, and yes, it's a tank year. Yes, all in for Cup, chasing the Cup, capture the flag, or not Cup. I won Cooper Cup. That my brain just went there. You want to capture the flag for sure, but in that noise for tanking was lost the expectations for Scotty Barnes, the non-conventional big playmaking wing, all defense level player, could one day do it all. Do we want to trade this guy for Kevin Durant type of guy? Like that kind of guy that we thought, was basically on his way to having like a diet Giannis kind of impact in this league. He didn't grow.
Yeah.
In fact, he got a little worse. And obviously, in a season where you're tanking, in a season where like you're not just accidentally tanking, you're purposefully tanking. Like you're throwing out bad lineups out there on purpose, trying to lose. And I mean, two things with that. Is this just who he is? He took less threes and he shot 27% from beyond the arc, shot 34% last year. And he shot worse than he did in his rookie year. If his shot is just never there, I think I'm disappointed in thinking about, I don't think he's going to be that level of player if he can't do that. So if we're talking about a guy that we thought might have been an all NBA level player, I'm pretty bummed that this is the kind of season he had.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I remember when we were talking like over unders before the season, I was pretty high on the Raptors putting together some sort of season. Not like anything amazing, but I thought they would be like chasing maybe even 40 wins with the roster they had, and that was
Yeah.
based off really the potential of Scotty Barnes
Yeah.
and him being fully healthy and what he can do as an all-round player, as a scorer, as a facilitator, as a rebounder. He is a guy that you can build a team around, and he really hasn't played like that this year. Like the Raptors, of course, have been disappointing. They've kind of quickly transitioned from a team that could potentially be an outside shot to make some noise in the play-in to a team that were just wanting to lose. I mean, remember they traded for Brandon Ingram? Just completely forgot about that. He obviously hasn't played a single game for them. But yeah, Scotty for sure. I think that's definitely a fair one. I think we were both had high expectations for him this year, and even though it was a losing year, he contributed to that in a very obvious and disappointing way. Even though that sounds kind of counterintuitive, it's like it's he should still be a guy that thriving and still be a guy that you're like, okay, even if they don't get this top pick, he could still be one of the best player on this team, and it really doesn't feel like that. It feels like now after watching this season, you're like, oh shit, they actually really need this top pick.
Yeah. And that's not where we thought we were going to be. We did not think that they were going to be the Bulls should have been tanking and they should have been where we are. So
Hmm.
that's where we're at. My final answer actually, and I need this is half shout out just to like squeeze this into a particular subject. My disappointment is that Kenny Lofton Jr. did not get a roster spot this season. I thought it was going to happen. I was waiting, but congrats to Kenny Lofton Jr., who is the MVP of the Chinese league. 25 points, 12.6 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 1.6 steals. Give this
Well,
guy a spot. Give
I'm
this guy a
glad.
spot. He looks good.
I'm so glad you're still keeping tabs on your boy, and yeah, hopefully he makes it back to the NBA because yeah, I mean, you like to think he can have some fun in there and really show something about.
Yeah.
I think he'll get one more shot depending on when that comes. I like to think he'll get at least one more shot to establish himself on a team, and hopefully that comes next year.
Did you see the picture of him holding the trophy? He just looks so sad. He does not look happy. Get this man home.
Yeah, no, that's not fair. All right, let's flip. I'll flip the narrative from negative to positive. Who do you think should fill the final All NBA first team spot? Effectively, the spot vacated by Luka Doncic because the All NBA first team is going to be the exact same as last year, except for Luka Doncic, who does not qualify. It's going to be Shea, Jokic, Giannis, Tatum. Who do you think should fill that final spot?
Hmm. You go first. That's a big question.
Yeah, I
That's a
mean,
big question.
it's tough.
Hmm.
I think my bias is kind of getting in the way. I'm looking at
Jalen Brunson. I
Jalen
mean,
Brunson and seeing what he's done. Like his numbers have been great. His performances in the fourth quarter in the clutch, three seed in the Eastern Conference. And you look at LeBron doing what he's doing at 40 years old, leading the Lakers back to a 50-win season. That's pretty impressive. But what I can't help but come back. I want to say I want to like give the nod to someone from the Cavaliers. Like
that's
I
what
want
I'm
to look
debating in my
at
head right
like
now.
Donovan. I want to give it to
That's
Donovan
what I'm
Mitchell. I
debating in
give
my
him the
head.
credit, but then if you're looking at the stats and looking at like the incredible turnaround, I find it hard not to come back to Kate Cunningham.
Cade, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I couldn't answer you right off the bat because I can't make that decision in my head. I think all around play, you have to give it to Cade, I think.
Hmm.
And when we're just talking about net like story, like what was the impact on the team? I mean, both are incredible. Like the Cavs are the best team in the East. You know, they're a true contender. Like path to the finals will go through them. And that's a huge part of that is Donovan Mitchell. Cade Cunningham, though, that turnaround, the fact that they're firmly in a playoff spot and they're made the best turnaround that we've ever seen in NBA history and the way he's playing, like, and I think it's all around game. I think you have to give the nod to the all around game of Cade and the playmaking, the defense, the shot creation. I think that his impact, even though the Cavs, you want to give Cavs a guy, I think I would give it to Cade.
I think he deserves an nod. And like this has been that breakout year, and just I think I said like almost like the Pistons deserve this. They deserve this credit because I don't think JB is going to get the nod for Coach of the Year. So it feels like this is something that the Pistons deserve, this kind of recognition. And even though it's an individual award, I think if he was given the honor, I think he'd be the first one to give credit to his coach and give credit to his teammates
Yeah.
for putting him in the position to achieve this. And the numbers wise and the turnaround that they've had, I don't think anyone could question it. I know a lot of people would say I'll probably have to give someone to the nod to someone on the Cavs, and I think that would be fair if it was Donovan Mitchell. But for me, I think if I had a vote, I probably would give it to Kate Cunningham.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I think either one I would be happy with. Um,
Mm.
Now, what about Anthony Edwards?
Mm, yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like he's a guy that will end up on second team, but he has put up great numbers. Obviously, led the league in three pointers. Was provided a lot of cover for this Timberwolves team when they were struggling, especially over the last few games. He's had some big time nights, and they obviously recovered to get a playoff position. I thought it was gone when they blew that lead against Milwaukee, but he was putting up big numbers, showing that kind of the mindset that he has. Like, look at yesterday. I know obviously he was only playing against the Utah Jazz, but Beasley had a go at him, basically saying, "You need seven to catch me in the 3 point race." And what did he do? He went out and caught him. Like that's the way type of guy that Ant is. And like I love Anthony Everett, so yeah, I mean. I feel like he's more of an outside shot because of the narrative around the Timberwolves has been quite negative this year. So I feel like he's more of a guy that will finish in second or third team.
But
But
would you give it to him just out of like talent? Like who is the best player like out of those three? Who has had a better season out of those three?
I still think Cade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about it. Like Kate, like in terms of story, like when you finally like work the season back and you look back at what the body of work of these players, it becomes so painfully obvious what teams, what players get the most media coverage. Like objectively speaking, I agree. I think Cade has had a better season, but who does everyone hear about? Anthony Edwards,
Mhm.
Donovan Mitchell second, Anthony Edwards first. So it's surprising to me that I think that the right decision will be made in terms of getting it to Cade or Mitchell. But I think Anthony Edwards, in terms of like his stardom and like how good he is as a player, I think he could get it too. But I think it's the right answer. I think either of those two makes
Yeah, I
sense.
agree. And now let's talk a little bit of playoffs. Let's talk playoff storylines. I got the top five playoff storylines going into the postseason. We'll start at the bottom. We'll start at number five. I think we each have a list here, so we'll go back and forth and discuss. I'll start off at number five. I got, is Tom Thibodeau coaching for his job in New York?
Mm. That so that's a great question, and I don't know how to answer that, man, because truthfully, how many times have you felt like they were close to firing him? I think never.
Yeah.
I think all there's been plenty of fan outrage, there's been plenty of media outrage, but the tight-knit relationship that he has with management has never given any sort of indication that there's a strain on that. Ever. I don't think so. I feel like the answer is no. But then hey, like what did we just see over the last 2 weeks?
Hmm.
Unprecedented coach firings. Then we get the combo, the twofer. We got the Calvin Booth, and we got Malone fired. Like, do we just change everything up? Does someone get fired during the playoffs? I don't know. Like, I don't know anything anymore. Anything's possible. So maybe. I think
Yeah.
he's firmly entrenched in that organization. Though I think a lot would have to go catastrophically wrong, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the year that's been in it. It just makes me kind of think of it. Obviously, this is the fifth year, back-to-back semi-final
Mhm.
losses in the playoffs. This year, come in, they've made all the moves, they pushed the chips in, they've given him everything they can give him. This year, the record against the best teams obviously very disappointing. The 3 point defense, he hasn't been able to figure that out all year. So I'm kind of looking at it and think, and we'll obviously get into it more. I do think that they will get past the Pistons, but if they were to get to the semifinals and get swept by the Celtics, then I think there might be that question of, okay, is Tibbs the guy to lead us forward? Because let's not forget, it's happened before. One guy has brought a team back from the brink and reestablished a team, but it's another guy another coach that's come in to really kind of take them to their highest peak. So we have seen that happen before. Not saying that's necessarily the case or that's how it's going to play out. But I think the pressure will come on Tom Thibodeau if they are swept, I think, by the Celtics. Are they just really if they don't give it a really good performance against the Celtics, they could go, even if they force the Celtics 7 games and lose, he could still lose his job. But I think that's when I'll really start to think about it in my own mind if they were to get swept by the Celtics in round two.
So it's funny you bring this up because that was one of mine as well. Not specifically the coaching. I didn't think of it from that angle, but I think my big question slash storyline is as we're looking forward to the playoffs and looking forward to a tough matchup with the Pistons, who, hey, guess what? They beat them 3 times out of 4. If we look back at this season, look at the new toys they got, which they traded 7 picks for, Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. Are they significantly better right now compared to last season when they were entering the playoffs?
Nope.
And that's shocking.
Mhm.
That's shocking. And I guess the obvious way to point to that is like, oh, is coaching an issue? Because you got 2 more talented guys. Like, why aren't you a lot better? So there's a lot of ways to attack that question. I mean, on a granular level, I think there's still going to be issues with Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and pick and roll defense. There's still going to be issues without having Mitchell Robinson out there, um, throughout stretches of the season and for significant periods of time because of that health risk. And they just don't have a true rim protector. So is Mikal Bridges not as good on the perimeter because he doesn't have that backline help? Maybe. And I think that makes me think 2 things. One, I guess now I'm thinking about the coaching. But two, like, is it really that surprising if they meet up with the Celtics and they get swept or they lose in 6? Are we shocked? Are we in DEFCON 1? Like, this is a disaster because we should have. I don't know. I guess I would lean towards more being like, yeah, I guess that makes sense, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Like it's that sort of way. It's like, yeah, like don't get me wrong, like are the Celtics a better team than the Knicks? Yes, they are. But the Knicks have built their team to compete with the Celtics to be compete atop the Eastern Conference. So if they lose, whether they're a better team or not, it's a failure, and that's just the way it is.
Are they better than the Cavs?
I mean, on paper, what we've seen this year, no.
Definitely not better than the Thunder. Let me give you some numbers to tell you exactly how much worse they are.
Hmm.
0-10. That's their record against those 3 teams. 65, 68, 35 point differential, respectively, against those teams. That adds up to a negative 148 point differential. Those games were not close. So, yeah, maybe that's a coaching thing. Maybe it's just a regular season thing. They're still figuring things out. Thunder have very significant continuity. Cavs have even greater continuity. Celtics have great continuity. This is the first season that these guys have really tried to figure things out together. So maybe it's fair, but it's a pretty big gap. And I think maybe this is the right recipe. Maybe this is the time where Tibbs has really built something there for New York, but maybe it is time if something like that happens. I think it's fair.
Hmm. We'll see. All right, what do you got for me?
I guess we'll stay negative here. I can't remember the last time I saw a headline about where's Giannis going to go? What's Giannis going to do? What are the Bucks going to do? I think we've gotten a little tired of just like raining on. I mean, I guess you can't really call the Bucks situation parade, raining on their, I don't know, their upcoming funeral. But the Giannis one has been really quiet. Uh, I don't even want to talk stats, but I mean the move for Kuzma getting away from Middleton, I still hate that. I've not seen anything better. Great, we got Bobby Portis back. Actually super happy that Kevin Porter Jr. has looked like a real like decent basketball player as we thought he was. But as we're having the looming matchup with the Pacers, who have been quietly the East, I'd say they've been the third best team in the East the second half of the season. They've been 33-13. They have top 5 defense to show for it. Halliburton's look better. When he scores 20 or more, they've only lost 3 games. This Pacers team is legit, and their record over the whole season does not show who they are in this exact moment in time. The Bucks have no idea when Lillard's going to be back. So I think the biggest storyline that no one's talking about in the East, it's always about what's going to happen with that superstar. Giannis Antetokounmpo, who should be a MVP candidate, should be. He should get votes. He should get discussion, but he won't because the Bucks are underwhelming. I think they're going to lose the first round, and I think it's going to. There's going to be exciting basketball to be talked about. There's going to be matchups, and maybe we'll have a couple stories about it. But I think that that conversation is going to reignite, and it'll just be another summer of hell of wondering, hey, what does this superstar want to do? Because the Bucks are out of options.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think that's exactly the way that it's going to go. There, how much we'll get into the matchup more, and like I'll get into to say like how much can his greatness pave over the cracks, and I'm not sure it can do it enough. We haven't got to see it over the last couple of years whether it could do it or not. So, but yeah, I mean that conversation's coming right in. Like the biggest story is going to be with the Nets. I mean their whole plan is if they don't get Cooper Flag, Giannis's plan B, go and attack the Bucks, see what they can offer, and see if they can get Giannis over from Milwaukee. That's been a pretty strong narrative this year, and I think it'll start straight after if they end up going down two nothing, or they're down by at least two games at any point in that series. I think that those conversations will start up straight away, and I'll be straight away. Okay, where's Giannis going now? Is Giannis going to stay? Is this the end of the books? What's going to happen? And like, I think we are so close. It feels like we're so far away right now because obviously Giannis had a great finish of the season. The Bucks actually won a few games. They even managed to get up above the Pistons for the 5 seed, and it's kind of made us forget that oh wait, the Bucks are meant to be challenging for a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Oh wait, the
Yeah,
Bucks
yeah,
are meant to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference and legit title contenders, but they're not. So we've kind of forgotten about that, and I think yeah, that narrative is definitely going to come back up very very quickly, especially if it goes the way that I think we both are predicting that it's going to go. But yeah, we'll see. We'll obviously we'll dive in more into the specifics of that matchup a little bit later in the show. Okay, next up for me, this is lower for me because I don't believe it to be true. But I say is, are the Thunder ready to compete atop the NBA? I had this as in the fourth spot for my top five narratives because I do believe that they are, but that's going to be a conversation straight away whenever they kind of face up any sort of turmoil, any sort of game they lose, that people will be ready to jump on them and say, "Oh no, they're not ready. Oh, they're too young. They're too inexperienced." And I think that's crazy, but I think that's definitely something that's going to happen
I I have one quick answer on that. So they're 16 wins better than the second place.
in the West.
They now and yes, they now enter top five in NBA history for scoring differential. Those other five teams that did it won a championship. That's it. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. I could dive into the defense. I could dive into their I hope hopeful MVP. Dive into their depth. Dive into all that. It's been done. But very quickly, if you have not been paying attention, this team is going to sweep the first round. I don't care how good Kawhi looks. I don't care if Jokic is insane. I think that this team is levels better than the rest of the competition based on what we've seen. And no amount of I think, idea of are they experienced enough, blah, blah, blah. They run so deep, they're so competitive, and they're just constantly all on the same page. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine a situation where they're not competing to get into the finals. They are not in the finals in the West.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like that's just the last word on it. Let's just say, remember how in awe and amazed we were by the Celtics last year? This Thunder team won four more games than them, and it was in the Western Conference. Let's
Yeah.
just to put that in, to kind of make it even clearer. But yeah, we can move on quickly from that. I'm glad you were with me
It's
there.
simple. Yeah, I think it's so simple. Yeah. Um, I one storyline that we've talked about in similar story. Are the Rockets ready to compete? I think that's a fair subject because I'm elated, I'm excited, I'm so happy to see this Rockets team as we've fallen through the season. We dubbed them as the most interesting team to watch. We thought it was going to be anywhere from a train wreck to a fascinating season, and they just exceeded so many expectations on so many levels. And I think if we want to talk matchups later, I'll save it for them. But I think the biggest storyline for them is are the Rockets going to do they have what it takes to make it further into the playoffs, or are they gonna fizzle out in the first round?
Yeah, I think I had that point down too. I'll just get it out there now. My thing was, do the Rockets need a superstar? And that's going to be the
Is
talk of
that what's
this.
gonna? Yeah,
That's
yeah.
going to be the talk. That's going to come of this. If they get bounced in the first round, everyone's going to okay, yeah, Şengün's not the guy, Green's not the guy. I guess they have to use the assets that they have to go and get like a whoever, like a Devin Booker or someone like that. They still need that star guy. On the flip side, they're able to win a couple of playoff series. That's going to lead to either Jalen Green or Şengün, at least one of them, maybe even Amen Thompson, really putting up huge numbers in the postseason. And everyone's kind of like, oh damn, they already have their guy. Maybe they were right to just take a second, take a breath, and just run with this team. Like that's going to be the narrative around the Rockets the whole way. If they succeed, everyone's going to be like, okay, they're
Mhm.
good, they're ready, they have their guys. It's just going to take that bit more time to really establish themselves. They go down in the first round, then everyone's going to be like, okay, they got to make the trade. They don't have the guy, and I'm in the opinion that I think that is fair. I still have my doubts about them having that elite guy. They're kind of that team, and they have that great defense, and their vets are great now, and their role players are good. And it's just like every team needs that breakout guy. It's still not clear who that is on this team, but the playoffs make that clear. So I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to figure that out now when they're still young and they still have all their assets, you know.
Yeah. I have a strong feeling that that is going to be an inevitable question in the summer, as there will be players available.
Hmm.
You look at Phoenix. Well, what's going to happen there? I mean, hell, we just talked about Giannis. What's going to happen there? And I can't picture a an emergence that is significant enough from either of those two guys that you're going to avoid that conversation. I love those guys, but I still think that there's a level below the true superstar you need to win a championship, and they have assets to do it. And I think that conversation is definitely going to take place. But I think they're in a really good spot to get through the first round, and I think they'll continue to be successful.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they face up in a playoff series because they obviously had their low. We thought they were done and they bounced back, which was obviously really impressive, especially for a young team. So it's
Yeah.
definitely super exciting to see how they're going to perform in a playoff series. All right, next up for me, can the Lakers defense hold up?
Hmm.
That's going to be the whole thing. And no one has any doubts about their offense. No one's worried about oh no, or the Luka LeBron going to be able to play together, or Reeves going to be able to do it. Like there's none of that conversation. It's all about can the defense hold up? Can they protect Luka enough? Can LeBron still play with the high energy that we've seen for large periods where he was like the lead guy on the defensive end when they went on that initial great run with Luka Doncic? Is Luka going to be able to play up to the level that needs to be played up to? Basically, just being a passable defender. Do they have can they their the formations they played out to kind of deal with size has worked in the regular season? Can that also work in the playoffs? That's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not the Lakers are able to go on a deep run, or else they might get bounced in the first or second round.
Yeah, and so many things trickle from that. They're going to have to crash the boards hard. Luka's going to have to crash hard. I think that in this particular matchup, they're probably going to have to be playing a little bit more small. So I think that portends to better defense on their end. I think it will. I think it will. I think they have enough. They have enough big wings that can play defense, and I think they can switch enough with Luka out there that they can make up for him out there. And I just can't. I can't imagine a better matchup for Luka's first stint with the Lakers
Mm-hmm.
than facing back up against Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. And I had this matchup as a storyline. I think I looked at it from the opposite end. Forget the Lakers. I'm not thinking about I'm thinking about Anthony Edwards. Can Anthony Edwards? This is an opportunity. This is his opportunity to stake his claim. Can he stake his claim as the next face of the NBA? Because the NBA's been looking for it. We've been looking to see who's going to be the next guy, and they tried really hard last season to push that, and he really lived up to it. It felt like as the hype got bigger, he got bigger, and everyone's talking about Luka always going to the Lakers. This is the passing of the torch. LeBron's going to teach Luka how to be the next guy. This is Anthony Edwards' chance to be like, hey, I don't care about all that. This is my league. And if he comes out in fashion, which he will need to, in order to win this series, Anthony Edwards has to be a megastar that we believe he can be. And this is his opportunity to do it. And this opportunity to be, really build legacy. Like this isn't just about like the teams themselves, but this is potentially like an inflection point in history for these two players to really determine like what their legacies look like between Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I know. I love that. That's such a good point, and that's it's so true. Can Anthony Edwards keep stepping up and basically shutting down what's arguably been the biggest story in the NBA this year? He just comes out there, does his thing, drops probably a couple of 40-point games, hits his shots when he needs to hit his shots, and they come out on top. Like that's just everything. That's just all time aura. That's just legendary status. That's that will just come with that, and like he is capable of it as well. And like, not to say that he can't be it if he doesn't do it, but that will just put him on a whole other level if he's able to come out and play to that level, which, like you said, we both believe that he is capable of doing.
Yeah. I'm trying to throw in a little side quest for this, a little side narrative.
Of course.
Um, your boy Julius Randle, he's staring down the barrel of a gun. He knows he's seen this story before. He's seen this he's all too familiar for him that if they play bad and he has a couple bad games, he's gonna be the scapegoat. And he shot 34% from the field in the playoffs. And we've seen him be very good. I was a doubter, and I can't stand here and say I've changed my mind, but I've been very impressed with his playmaking, his smart decisions, and really playing within the flow of the offense and being a hub of the offense as well. She shot 40% from deep, 52% from the field, averaging 18.2 points, 6.8 rebounds, 5.2 assists since he came back in the last 21 games. He's had a really good stint. Can he keep this going? Yeah, we know Anthony Edwards has to be the megastar in order for this for them to overcome LeBron, Luka, and the Lakers. But I think they're gonna throw two on the ball all the time. They're gonna attack the hell out of Anthony Edwards and that middle of the floor where Randall has shown that he can be a great playmaker. He can attack mismatches and he can punish people down the paint, especially when you got a Lakers team that does not have the rim protection that you want them to. This is his opportunity. Talk about legacy. We talk about narrative for Anthony Edwards to claim, he's the next guy. Julius Randle's he's a fantastic player, but everyone's like, well, how good is he if he can't really perform in the playoffs? And that has just been the monkey on his back, and that he needs to, perform in order for this to finally be resolved. I think he becomes we view him differently if he can just show it in an important series like this. So I think that's a big thing I'm looking at too.
Yeah, and being able to do it as the backup guy, and it feels like he appears to actually be healthy in the playoffs. I mean, we have like the last, obviously last season he missed the entire playoff season. Before that, he was dealing with a bit of an injury as well. So hopefully now we're going to see the healthy version of him, and maybe I'm get to see him do it as a legit number two, the guy who's going to get not going to get the same level of attention that he might have got previously in the playoffs. So yeah, the opportunity is there for him to go and do it, and the Wolves are going to need him to be the guy that he is capable of, to be the guy that we've seen him be in the regular season, and he does that in the playoffs. Like that'll be huge and such a difference maker for the Wolves team. All right, my second one, obviously, I had that dude. The Rockets need a superstar, so we don't need it. We already kind of broke that down a little. My top one there now is the one that it's going to be so interesting. It could be decide like what goes on in the Western Conference. We talked about it a couple of weeks back. Can Kawhi Leonard still be the best player in a playoff series? And if the answer is yes, I won't rule out this Clippers team going on a run.
My answer to that is no, because look at who he's facing. He's facing the best player in the world. He's facing a future, if not already, top 10 player ever, Nikola Jokic. The question then becomes, I think more importantly, more of a Nuggets question. But I think as a whole, though, I think those two teams and how they match up, that question becomes relevant in the following series. If they end up matching up against SGA and the Thunder, can we see Kawhi be that? I think so. I think it's possible. But man, Kawhi prime, if we are getting prime level Kawhi Leonard against the Denver Nuggets, that's gonna be a bloodbath. It's gonna be an absolute bloodbath. And Zubac is gonna have his hands full. We've seen him have such a good year. Like he's been so underrated as a defender. I think we were able to shout him out a couple weeks ago. But that matchup is gonna be unbelievable. We're going to see a lot of Peyton Watson to try and slow him down. We're going to see, a lot of sitting, I think, from MPJ. We'll see what kind of matchups that they can conjure up, but Kawhi Leonard is going to give them a lot of fits, a lot of
Mhm.
fits. And hey, maybe Kawhi really takes it to that next level. But I mean, Jokic is just such a problem, and in this next series, I think that it's Jokic's to claim.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. That's it. It's like almost it's the way that it should go. You've said can't really out yes yet to until we see it, of course.
Yeah.
You got one to finish us out there?
I think we took all of mine, but mine is the play-in, which are we still confused on whether or not the play-in or the playoffs? Is play-in the playoffs? The playoffs the play-in?
No, the plan is its own thing.
The play-in is its own thing. I still feel like it's a playoffs. But mine is on one of my favorite matchups to see year after year, the grudge between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. And how much is at stake here? There's so much at stake. You look across the alley, you look at Memphis. They just fired their coach. Ja's still trying to figure things out. He's still in the news, can't get out of it, and they've just been slumping, slumping, slumping. Can they just find some magic? Because there's some magic in this team that they've been trying to reclaim that they just have not been able to. And the Warriors, I mean, the inexplicable losses that they've had to fall into the play-in, they are now finding themselves crawling back up into the playoffs. They have all these expectations. The Lakers, they made their trade. They're there in the third seed. They got their guy in Jimmy Butler. They're still trying to figure out things with Jonathan Kuminga in that lineup. But can they really contend to give Curry another shot? I really hope that we get a chance to see that contention happen. But I think that that's going to be a massive storyline. Can we take advantage of another year of Curry as
Yeah,
he's 36? This
yeah.
is
No,
coming up on
that's
the last chance.
yeah. Like everyone's been talking about it. That was the whole thing, and that's why everyone was so excited for them to get Jimmy Butler to make that move. We all wanted to see the Warriors be aggressive and make a move to get a guy in to give Steph another shot or another shot or two at competing deep in the postseason. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree. That's definitely going to be right up there, especially now that they're in the play-in. The fact that like they have to come out of that when they never have before. The Warriors are 0-3 in the play-in. They had that collapse last year, obviously on the road against the Kings last year. I think we are all a bit stunned by that one. This year, obviously, they're playing as the home team. They're playing against the Grizzlies team that are struggling, but the noise around it, if they were to fall to the Grizzlies, and maybe I would still think they would get through as the and be the eighth seed if that were to happen. But the difference between playing the Thunder in the first round and playing
Yeah.
the Rockets, that is gigantic.
And another like side quest note here on players to keep an eye on. Jonathan Kuminga, a guy who's like, theoretically their ceiling raiser, right? The
Mhm.
guy who, if he gets going on top of all these other guys, then they're really going to be hard to beat. And the guy's going to be really important against a team like the Grizzlies. They end up going up against, any of these young teams, Grizzlies, Rockets, Thunder. He's not been able to really work with this starting lineup. And they have a negative 25 net rating when he shares minutes with Butler and Draymond Green. It's a 97.5 offensive rating. They're incorporating their young guy who's supposed to be like their catalyst, who's supposed to be their ceiling raiser and really bring them to a new level. It hasn't happened, and I'm really interested to see how Kerr incorporates him if Kuminga is going to be ready because I think that they need X factors on this team. You've seen it with Pajemski. We obviously know what we're going to get from Butler. We know that Curry's gonna be ready for the moment, but there's gonna be some really hard matchups here for Curry. Curry's looked mortal. Like we've seen him at his heights this season, but we've also seen him be mortal. And we've seen that physicality, speed, and really quick reacting defenses with a lot of pressure on the ball, pressure off the ball on him, just throwing everything at him. We saw what the Rockets did to him.
Yeah.
He needs the other guys to really show out in the playoffs for him to at least have a chance. So I'm watching to see how Kuminga will be able to make an impact if he can get into the lineups, if he can perform when the moment's ready for him, because I think that he could be a major swing factor if they actually are going to try to get Curry another championship. Kuminga's got to be great, and he's got to find a moment to be great, and Kerr's got to help him find that moment too.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree with that, and it's been pretty loud narrative that Kuminga struggles since obviously returning from that injury, and like he's playing for a contract too. He's playing the show. Like he wanted that max deal last year. The Warriors obviously have proven to be right to not give it to him. This is the time where you make some noise in the playoffs. This is the best time to really show out and show your best form, even if it's not real. If you can fake it for a playoff series or two or a playing game, that can earn you a big payday. Like let's see what Kuminga can
A la
bring. But
Jordan
yeah.
Poole. They've done it
Yeah,
before.
there you go. It's happened before, and it can happen again. But yeah, I think yeah, that's definitely a great point. And the Warriors for sure are going to be a big storyline, especially now as we approach this play-in and see where they go from there. But let's switch it over. Let's go more of a deep dive. Let's talk about these playoff matchups. Do we want to start with the matchups we know that are set, or will we start quickly and talk the play-in tournament?
I think quickly playing tournament. Are we just doing predictions here?
Yeah, I mean we can get into a little bit more. We can go
I think
predictions. We can get into a little bit more. We suppose let's start with the Eastern
I'll
Conference.
I'll bullet point it. So
Go.
Heat and Bulls. My prediction, obviously, I'll go Bulls.
I agree.
I think Bulls play fast enough. They shoot enough threes. They move the ball so well that they have the opportunity to beat anybody. And I think they've shown it against the Heat. I think the Heat's defense isn't as scary as it used to be. They obviously have the size. They have, the defense that can really turn up to smother a team like the Bulls. But I'm going Bulls. I think they're going to be facing off the Cavs.
Yeah. Well, no, not facing off the Cavs. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. You are right. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, yeah. I think the Bulls get through the Heat and then they make it through. I think the Hawks as well. I think the Magic will take care of the Hawks and they will get their beat down from the Celtics. And then I think the Bulls will take care of the Hawks and the Bulls will get their beat down from the Cavs. I think the play-in could be fun for these teams, but I don't see either of them making any sort of noise. People are like, "Oh yeah, the Magic going to face up the Cavs again. They can give them some trouble like they did last year." I do not believe that to be true. I think the Cavs are a superior team to the Magic. I think the Magic are not at the level that they were at last year. Maybe Banchero can channel some of that greatness we saw at the end of the year. We've seen him flashes since he's returned, but I think both teams. I think the Magic and the Bulls come out of the play-in, but I think both of them. I'd be surprised if either of them even get to 5 games in the first round.
Yeah. I think I would be too. I think that's a super dull analysis. I still don't think the Magic's offense is there yet. I think they'd be very annoying on defense. I think they can't steal a game without making a shot, but hey, you give them a couple hot games, we'll see. Because
Mm-hmm.
that defense is real. They have the playoff level defense. We already know that, but I don't think we're going to see much there. In terms of whoever's facing against the Cavs, none of these teams have the front court to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be very surprised to see the Bulls steal a game, even though I'd love to see that. Um, and one thing I will say on that, one thing to keep an eye on, we talk about contracts, talk about Kuminga, I'm talking about Giddey, Josh Giddey, who's just had an incredible second half of the season, and he's just been really showing out in the regular season games. Albeit there have been some pretty questionable like opponents at times, but he's got to answer this question: Can you play in the playoffs? Can you be a non-liability as a shooter and as a defender? Because those are the two areas in which the Thunder could not see you working out with their plans to be a championship level team. And you got to answer those questions before someone gives you a contract because you're up for one. And I think those have not been answered yet. I think you have answered the what it looks like when you are the 1A in terms of playmaking. And it's looked pretty good. Great passer, great facilitator, just really knows how to cut when he doesn't have the ball. He's been good as a non-shooter at times, and he's provided good off-ball shooting. But important thing to keep an eye on for a young guy like that who, is questionable, what is his future? Could he be a star level player that people are sleeping on that the Bulls were able to scoop up for Alex Caruso? Or is it going to be kind of a tough summer where you don't know how to value him? We'll find
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely important to keep an eye on. I feel like I want to say that's a decision that the Bulls kind of need to get right. It's about time they made a good decision on one of these deals, but it's hard to know if they actually will or not. But yeah, let's flip it over to the West then. We'll talk quickly. We'll go in more in depth on the Grizzlies Warriors, of course. I think the Kings will beat the Mavs. I think
They
Kings are
should.
just
They
are a
better.
little bit more complete. They're playing better basketball, more competitive basketball, and we all know the old Sabonis factor when it comes to matchups with AD as well. So yeah, I think the Kings will take care of the Dallas Mavericks in what will be pretty underwhelming. What could have been a pretty exciting title, we end up being pretty underwhelming. But what about Grizzlies and Warriors? We talked about it quickly.
Yeah. I think it comes down to one main thing. I think it comes down to rebounding. We know that Golden State has struggled with this, 17th in the league in rebounding, and they're facing the second best team on the boards. And even if they win this matchup, ironically, they would be facing the best rebounding team in the league, the Houston Rockets. But I I think that it'll come down to battle the boards if Memphis can continue to be great there. Um, and if Curry can get hot, that's an X factor. I think one thing that has really been missed for the Memphis Grizzlies, keep an eye on their perimeter defense because Jalen Wells has been just a stalwart defender for them. As a rookie, he's been fantastic. There's only so much they're going to be able to do without him out on the perimeter. Williams is a great player, but just not to the level of defender that Wells is. So you always can, puncher's chance. Curry could go hot. They could win this, but throughout the steady four quarters, I think that Memphis is going to out rebound them. I think that they'll have a stronger presence inside. No one's just going to be able to match up with Edie, and hopefully that allows the Grizzlies to get a win here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like when I was actually looking at this matchup, I guess I was maybe looking at it too broadly and maybe looking at it more as a playoff series and thinking that the Warriors were going to get this. I still am kind of in that camp. I think the Warriors would just have enough to get the job done here. Playing at home, of course, that always helps. And it just feels like the Grizzlies they're just a little bit cooked. They're like 6-9
Yeah,
finish to
that's
the
the feeling.
season. Things haven't really got going since obviously the fire at Jenkins, but it's a one-off game. Can Ja Morant be that guy in this one game? Can Jaren Jackson Jr. still be elite on both ends? He's got to make sure he stays out of foul trouble. That's an issue that sometimes creeps up for him, and it can't creep up for him in a game like this if they need him out on the floor. Can Ja reestablish himself as one of the stars of the NBA? And this is a perfect ground for him to do that. I'm still leaning towards the Warriors just being able to get the job done, but your points are definitely valid, and I think it's going to be a tough battle, and I think it's going to get to the fourth quarter, and it's going to be those last 5 minutes where we really see one team go and steal this one.
Yeah. Yeah, as I talk about out loud, the rebounding is an important thing, but I'm still a little wary of the perimeter defense without Wells. I mean, that's just added factor. So I think I would go with the Warriors as well, um, given the amount of like offensive firepower that they've showed, and just limping to the finish here feels like what the Grizzlies are doing. But we'll see if they're able to win it with a battle on the boards there.
Yeah, and I'll say it quietly. Like I mentioned before, I think the Warriors may have stumbled into a pretty nice situation where they face the Rockets rather than I guess the Thunder or the Lakers, who were their previous options. Maybe that won't be true. The
Yeah,
Rockets have obviously given them trouble, especially in that last game where they faced off. But I think that maybe is also a team that they could put the Warriors potentially take advantage of as well.
I'll say this, and if you think about both, Houston went 3-1 against Memphis. Ja played in all those wins. Houston went 3-2 against Golden State. In those three matchups, Curry's held to 16.3 points on 36% from the field and 30% from three. And I think you look at the rebounding issue, if it's the Warriors, they're going to destroy their Adams and Şengün have the highest net rating of any two big man lineup in the league. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Can you believe
No.
that? I would have thought the Cavs. I would have definitely thought the Cavs. And somehow they're also still maintaining the fifth fastest pace in the league. You know what their offensive rebound rate is?
I do not.
50%. When they're on the floor, they grab 50% of misses. That is insane.
It's crazy.
Adams finishes this season. I don't see a lot of people. I think this was tweeted out by Zach a month ago, but he finished the season the best offensive rebounding percentage in league history
No.
this season. So very, very under appreciated is their ability to control the boards and the offensive boards. And everyone says, "Oh, Houston, they can't really shoot." Well, guess what? They have more chances to put the ball in the hoop. They
Yeah.
take the ball away from you, and then they'll get an offensive board on the other side. Like they will. I think that no matter who goes up against this team, they're going to be a buzzsaw on the boards and on defense against the Warriors and against Memphis if they get there. But again, big storyline, right? I think we think about whether or not Curry is going to be up to the moment if the rest of guys like Kuminga stand up to battle the boards with them, be as athletic as them. So it comes down to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's totally fair. Okay, what about the matchups that we do know? Where do you want to start? East or West?
Um, in the interest of time, I think we start out. Let's finish out West here. We talked about Lakers, Minnesota. That's a really tough one to predict. I think I want to touch on really one main point here that I think a lot of the game is gonna start to unfold from. And you talked about it, the Lakers defense. Do they have the size? And it comes down to one particular guy, Jackson Hayes. Is he a playoff rotation player?
Yeah.
Right now, I think the answer is no. He could surprise us, but I think the answer is no. So then we're going to see a lot of small ball from the Lakers, and that can be problematic for Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is going to have to prove a lot here. Is he going to be played off the floor again? And that would also rely on if the Lakers are hitting their shots. Are the Lakers still able to spread the floor, or are Timberwolves going to try and disrespect some of their guys and not get them any time? That's why you've seen Vando not really see the floor that much. Still don't trust his shot. And that is a matchup that I think Ant can really take advantage of. Julius Randle can really take advantage of. It's so important that they need to put pressure on the rim. I really hope we see Ant be aggressive, getting to the cup and really starting the series strong by pressuring the rim and forcing them to get in rotation and put two on the ball and give other guys an opportunity. So I'm really interested to see how this chess match works out and who ends up what kind of lineups that Redick feels comfortable going to if they can't really run it big out there. And then you
Yeah.
think about that too, like just talking about the unfolding, like Luka, then does he have the ability to really run pick and roll as effectively as he did in Dallas without a vertical threat?
Mhm.
Like he's not going to have a lob threat out there if he doesn't have Jackson Hayes. Does he have a true big that he can run with that's going to be as effective? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I like you said, the way they're gonna have to do it, it's gonna be so interesting to see if who blinks first. Like, do the Wolves come out and really try to attack the rim, or do the Lakers try to kind of like deter from that? Do they try to um keep Jackson Hayes out there? Does Ant settle for threes early on, and then they kind of grow into it more? It's going to be interesting to see kind of almost who blinks first in that sort of situation. Because it go either way. And then obviously with the Lakers, their small ball is actually pretty big too. Like, they've got
Yeah.
a lot of big guys on their team. It's just they don't have that 7 footer, or that legit rim protector. But they've got it. They've still got a big team. And I think this could come down to the shooting of the role players as well. This series could
Mhm.
really be decided by that, because I think the Wolves have better shooters, more consistent shooters, but I think the Lakers are more capable of getting open looks. So
Yeah.
that's like the
Yeah.
interesting balance there. So it's like you're looking at like DFS, Gabe Vincent, Vando, Rui versus like Nas, Dante, uh, Alexander Walker, and McDaniels. Like, who can more consistently combine for like
Yeah.
10 to 12 3-pointers in a game. That could be such a big deciding factor in this series.
Yeah. That totally agree. Um, we touch on Nuggets and Clippers? That that's gonna
This this is
be
gonna be this
that's gonna be
this
such a hard one.
I think this can go 7 games.
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's gonna be such a challenge for both teams to stop the opposing star. I mean, duh. But what do you throw at Jokic? I mean, I think they have a lot of tools to do it, actually. I think Zubats
Yeah,
is
they do.
a perfect type of he has the perfect size that he can really play in the post against Jokic. He's not gonna stop him. But you have a lot of rangy wings who can come in and double. You know that Clippers are gonna be good getting in rotation. You know that they can switch things up and get in the zone. And I think Jokic's ability to just problem solve all those things, it's just going to be so fun to watch how he deals with all the problems that Ty Lue throws at him. And I think that I don't have the basketball mind to even begin to unfold how that works because there's going to be that's going to be the best I think part of this first round is watching the types of schemes that Tyronn Lue will throw at him and how Jokic just figures that out. How quickly does he figure that out? Does it take 2, 3 series and then he's already figuring out where to throw the ball? And that's gonna be a fun part. And obviously we mentioned it, Kawhi Leonard. There's not a lot of guys that the Nuggets can hope to slow him down. You throw your Peyton Watsons, Julian Strawther, good luck. MPJ, good luck. Get switched on to Murray, good luck. Christian Braun, got a chance, good luck. They are. It's gonna be gonna be by committee, but that's gonna be a big challenge for the Nuggets. I think that there's gonna be. It's interesting for me to say this out loud, but I think it might be a little bit harder for the Nuggets to plan to how can we stop Kawhi if he's going the way he is than it will be for the Clippers to try and stop Jokic because I think there's other options for Jokic. He is unstoppable, but in terms of defending on the wing, I'm not sure I feel as confident as what they could do for Jokic. Is that crazy? I don't know.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but it actually isn't crazy when you say like those things and you kind of talk anything negative and you say any way of slowing down Jokic, you're kind of like, nah, you're crazy. Like you don't know what you're talking about.
I feel crazy saying it.
This
Yeah,
guy's amazing. But like it is definitely it is definitely a valid point. And then like you look at the Clippers, like can their guards perform? Can Norm Powell get back to it? Can Harden produce great playoff moments? We know the way Harden is. Harden is like one amazing game followed by two bad games. That's usually the way things go for him in the playoffs. He's not going to be able to afford to be able to do that in this series if the Clippers are going to come out on top of it. I mean, you got to still question. You got to say how real is this defense? Don't get me wrong. I do believe it is real. I think they have a great defense, but it doesn't get truly tested until you step into a playoff series and you go up against one of the best offenses in the entire NBA. And then you look at the Nuggets and you're like, okay, the impact of the coaching change. Was it really worth it? Did they really change things? Is the mood really better? Are they going to play more defensively? Can they step up? I'm not saying they're going to be like a top five defense or an elite defense or anything like that, but they finished the season as a 22nd ranked defense and they looked like it as well out on the floor. Can they look like a competent defense, or does Jokic just have to go unconscious mode and just absolutely dominate and average like a 40-point triple double to get them over the line here? It's going to be so interesting to see how this series breaks down, the way it could go. Like it could go so many different ways. There could be so many swings in this series. It's going to be really, really exciting. And like you think that Ty Lue is going to have the advantage coaching wise. Maybe the Nuggets have the advantage overall talent wise, but it's close. So this is going to be such
yeah.
an interesting chess match for sure.
And on it, do we get to see the return of playoff Jamal Murray?
Hmm.
That's I think
Another big point.
that's the X factor there.
And you look at the
Um,
shooting as well. One last point. Does the shooting of Jokic and Gordon hold up? They've both been shooting insane numbers
yeah, I
from deep. Last season's playoffs, Jokic shot 26% from deep. Last year in the regular season, Gordon was 29% from deep. So I mean, we've seen them kind of go to each curve this season. They've been consistently good. If that holds up again, that's huge for the Nuggets.
yeah, that's been also something that not talks a lot about is Gordon shooting. Been
Yeah.
I thought an anomaly, but we'll see if it holds up.
Mm.
Uh, Much to say about Thunder versus whoever Kings or
No,
Mavs
Thunder.
or
I
I
think, especially if
yeah
it's the Kings, yeah, the
yeah.
Thunder, easy peasy.
Good luck. Good luck. Safe travels. Um, Cavs, I think similar situation. Celtics, I'd say similar situation. I think that we're really focusing in on Pacers, Bucks, Knicks, Pistons, and no disrespect to the other team. I think that just in the interest of time, I think there's a little more to talk about here. But let's end with your Knicks. Let's talk about Pacers, Bucks real quick. I think we discussed it earlier. Um, I think my prediction is still Pacers. I think that we've seen Halliburton be better. We've seen how good they are when he is able to be on the level that he's at right now. Seen them be the top five defense, and I think they just have more weapons. They play faster, they move the ball better. They're better in rotation on defense, and they know that the weakness of the Bucks is they just don't have enough shooting. They don't have enough perimeter playmaking, and they're gonna be able to throw bodies at Giannis. They got Siakam, they got Nemhard, they got what's his face? That back half of the podcast, my one brain cell is killing me here.
Who are we
But
thinking? Toppin?
um,
No. Neesmith? You mess with
yes,
him?
they got Neesmith, and that's one of my favorite playoff matchups, man. I love this matchup. I love seeing how these guys are so just ferocious defending Giannis. They know the kind of energy they need to give. We've seen Neesmith go 1v1 against Giannis and, frustrate him. So excited to see how this goes, but I just really can't. I can't imagine unless Damian Lillard comes back and provides that Lillard level impact that the Pacers are going to back down for this matchup. And even if Giannis goes for 35, 40 a night, I don't think that they're going to advance here.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a tough one to call because obviously we haven't seen Giannis have a legit playoff run since the 21-22 season, in which he was absolutely insane. 32, 14, 7, and 1.3 blocks. He pushed the Celtics to 7 games without Chris Middleton during that playoff run. We haven't got to see a real playoff run yet. He got injured the following year against the Heat, came back, but he wasn't the same. Obviously missed the entire series against the Pacers last year. Dame also missed 2 games during that season. The Pacers obviously still won at 4-2. This season, the Bucks are 3-1 against the Pacers. But the question obviously is still like how far can Giannis's greatness lead the Bucks? I can't rule it out right at this moment that he doesn't have enough greatness and enough aura around him to be able to lead his team past the Pacers in the first round. But I just think, like you said, I think the Pacers have more all around talent. They have too much speed. They have too much shooting for the Bucks to even come close to competing with. And I think the Bucks, maybe Giannis can lead them to a couple of wins, but the most likely outcome here, I think, is probably the same as last year, a 4-2 series win for the Pacers because they've improved defensively. Siakam is really playing even. He was good last year. I think he's playing better this year. Halliburton is getting closer to being the guy that he was last season. As the season has gone on, the role players are continuing to do their thing. Toppin's still hitting his shots. Like everything is still. The Pacers are still the team that will be the most like unsurprising kind of team to reach the conference finals. We obviously are pretty convinced it's going to be the Cavs and the Celtics, but if the Pacers were the team to cause the upset again and make it to the conference finals, I don't think anyone would be surprised.
Yeah, no, I think they could do it. And I think the one thing to watch is while Siakam's had a good season, I think his shooting has definitely come back down to earth.
Hmm.
And with that bursitis he's dealing with, if he can't shoot, look out. Do they just leave him? Do they just put Lopez on him? Do they dare the Pacers to test out that elbow? And do they really negate some of that impact that Siakam has as a creator if they're just not going to worry about him? So something to look at there.
Hmm.
Um, this might be my favorite first round matchup for the narratives, the new faces, for things to prove. Um, Pistons have nothing to prove here. Knicks have everything to prove. Pistons are going to be hungry. There's going to be no regrets no matter what. They're just going to go 100 miles an hour. I think this goes to 7. I think Cade is the best player in this series. I think the Pistons have a better defense, but the talent level of the Knicks, this will, I think this is how it goes. I think it goes to 7, and I think the Pistons will like trial by fire. They will form the Knicks into who they're supposed to be, or the Knicks will flounder, and then you'll have all the badness that you talked about. I think this will be a difficult team to get out of the playoffs, and the proving grounds to do that will hopefully bring this team together in a way that they need to be to compete later on in the playoffs and get through the Celtics, or at least make it a competitive series.
Knicks are going to win this series. I have no doubts about the Knicks getting the job done against this Pistons team. Yeah, been a great story with the Pistons. Pistons have been great. Don't get me
No
wrong.
doubt.
They've been great. Knicks are going to win this season. This season, sorry, this series. Cade's been great. But are you forgetting about the guy that plays for the New York Knicks?
No, I'm just saying, like 31
Uh,
points,
yeah,
56% from the field,
Cade's thriving against the Knicks. Brunson's also
52% from
thriving
three.
against the Pistons. Obviously, he didn't have a great night there last week when they played because he's still kind of getting back together. But if Brunson is back at full tilt for this playoff series, I have no doubts about the Knicks getting the job done here. I think they could maybe do it in 5 games. It'll probably go to 6.
Really?
Hopefully, it's the same as last
Really?
year. I hope this is a nice, exciting playoff series like against the 76ers, but the Knicks just win the games when they need to win them.
I
Brunson
don't
does his
know.
amazing things. Going talent for talent, like individually, like Knicks are, are. The Knicks beat the Pistons player for player, like talent wise. I will say that I think the Pistons will try to make the Knicks uncomfortable. They'll try to be physical. They'll have beef stew there going out, probably throwing some punches, throwing some shade, trying to make the Knicks uncomfortable. I'd be very disappointed if the Knicks weren't able to overcome that. That'd be a real sign that this team is just needs change, and like if they're not able to overcome the bit of physicality, the bit of kind of the young cockiness of this Pistons team, that I think that'll be a real sign that change is needed for this Knicks team. I think they'll be able to get the job done. I mean, I look at obviously first experience for pretty much everyone on this Pistons team outside of Beasley, Harris, and Hardaway, and then you look at Tobias Harris, important part of this team, traditional playoff flopper. And then you look at Malik Beasley, a traditional guy that gets played off the floor in the playoffs. Like throughout his career, he averages 7 less minutes in the playoffs than he does in the regular season, and he averaged 8 minutes less in the playoffs last year. So I don't have I think the Pistons, they're going to be a great story. I think Cade is going to be amazing, but I think the Knicks get the job done here.
You came ready with shade. That's crazy. I don't
I
know, man.
know.
I can't. I'm not really a math major, but I'm trying to figure out the how you translate losing 3-1 throughout the season to winning 5-1 and or winning 4-1
Playoffs are
in the
different,
playoffs.
baby. The playoffs are different.
But we'll see. I really think it's going
We blew
to
out the Pistons
push them.
once. It was pretty close for all the other games. Where that last game we played it without OG,
Yeah.
without Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson still wasn't at full tilt there either. So I mean, I think talent level will come out. I think Jalen Brunson's playoff greatness will come out and shine through here.
Yeah, it'll you always love to talk about who's the best player, and I think that'll be an interesting conversation. Who's gonna be the best player here? We've seen Brunson do it in the playoffs. We haven't seen Cade yet on this stage. You haven't seen a lot of these guys on the stage. And I'll close by saying the last time the Pistons clinched a playoff spot, Cade, Duran, Ivy, Ron Holland, they were all in high school. Crazy.
So just congratulations really to the Pistons, whether they win it or not. And I think they will make it competitive. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
legit, congratulations to the Pistons for getting back to it. And I think this is the start of some of a period of success for this team.
Yeah. Oh man, that little brother mentality, man. You know that they're gonna feel that, and I can't wait to see what kind of
Yeah, it
competition
should
they're
be
gonna bring
it
out,
should be
man.
super feisty. This should be a series, like just like the 76ers and Knicks last year. That was a series. That was the best series probably of the entire playoffs, but it was still the Knicks still got the job done 4-2. I think it'd be a similar sort of situation this year when they play the Pistons. We cannot finish out because some breaking news has just dropped. And guess
We
what?
all we all knew it was gonna happen. We
Guess
all knew it
what?
was gonna
Mike
happen.
Budenholzer got fired. Shocking
Well, they're
news.
not they're not in the playoffs, so it doesn't count. But yeah, they're glad they got it done. They got it done. They needed
They
to get it
like
done.
how can they afford to bring in another coach? They've fired all their coaches. They're still like paying off like everyone. Like surely
How
this is the
many coaches
start
are they
of it
gonna
all
have on
blowing
there?
up. Like I don't know how it works in the NBA. Does Monty Williams did he stop being paid out because he signed with the Pistons? I'm not 100% sure how if it works that way. If they once they take another job, they know are they no longer entitled to the money from the previous team? I'm not 100% sure how that works, but
Unless I know that's the thing with players, and my understanding that's the same way with coaches. Pretty sure.
yeah,
So Monty's
that would
still
make
going to be
sense.
paid by the Pistons, but he's not being paid by the
Yeah.
Suns.
So they're paying Vogel, who was on a 3 year deal, and now they're paying Budenholzer, who was also on a 3 year deal, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's significant money. And like that's a decision that the Bucks weren't willing to make. Obviously, they are still paying out they were still obviously they got off Budenholzer now, but they were still paying out Budenholzer and then they were still paying out the coach from last year as well. That's why they obviously they never really thought about firing Doc Rivers this year, which they could have done with the way things were going. But yeah, is this the beginning of the end for the Suns? Are they going to completely blow it up? Everyone's convinced that they're only going to get rid of KD and maybe Beal, but Booker's going to stay around. Why would Booker want to stay around? I know he wants to be loyal and he loves Phoenix and all that, but I just don't know if they can rebuild without completely blowing up like Brooklyn Nets style.
Because management will not make smart decisions. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, okay,
I don't trust them to make the
that's
right
fair
move with
enough.
that. They were convinced that they have a roster that 29 other teams would want. So I
Yeah,
expect
that's gonna
nothing.
go down as one of the all-time famously dumb quotes. That guy's gonna that's gonna follow around. That's gonna follow him around for forever. But yeah, the start of the beginning of the end for the Phoenix Suns. It really died with a whimper. Without not even they couldn't even make it to the play-in tournament with the depleted Mavs with the Kings who traded off their best player. Like it is absolutely crazy how down bad everything is in Phoenix, and let's see where they go from here. But Coach Bud is out. Phoenix. I mean, if you're a Phoenix Suns fan, I really feel for you. It's got to be one of like the most disappointing and heartbreaking situations over the last couple of years. There, from the highest highs when you trade for Durant and you get these guys to the lowest lows. It's gone
Truly.
complete full circle very quickly. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for sticking with us, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, playoffs are here. We could be more excited. We're gonna have some fun with the playing. That's always good. That starts Tuesday night, I believe. Playing obviously fun. Anyone who criticizes it, it's the right thing to do. We got to keep things interesting before going into the playoffs, and then the playoffs are gonna drop next weekend. We got some playoff basketball. We're gonna be watching the games. We'll have a cover for you here on Coast to Coast. But for now, we'll see you later. Remember, we're everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA, and most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Go Bulls.